The Arctic, a remote frozen wilderness at the top of the world. While many people associate the Arctic with icebergs, polar bears, and harsh conditions, it's becoming increasingly clear that this region is one of the most important geopolitical hotspots of the 21st century. Why? Because the Arctic is no longer just about ice and snow. It's about resources, trade routes, and power struggles between nations. Let's explore why the Arctic region is drawing so much attention on the global stage. The Arctic, a vast and largely uninhabited region, has long been overlooked in global geopolitics. However, in recent years, the region has become the focal point of international competition and collaboration. What was once a frozen, inhospitable space is now seen as a treasure trove of resources and an important geopolitical asset, thanks to melting ice and the shifting global power dynamics. One of the most significant factors making the Arctic region geopolitically important is the ongoing effects of climate change. Over the past few decades, global warming has caused the Arctic ice to melt at an unprecedented rate. In fact, satellite data shows that the Arctic is warming more than twice as fast as the rest of the world, a phenomenon known as Arctic amplification. As the ice melts, previously inaccessible shipping routes are becoming open for longer periods. The Northwest Passage, a potential trade route through the Canadian Arctic archipelago, is now navigable for longer periods during the year. This would allow ships to travel between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans more efficiently, cutting down shipping times and costs. The Northern Sea route along the Russian Arctic coast is also becoming increasingly accessible, providing an alternative path for trade between Europe and Asia. For many nations, the Arctic's newly opened waterways represent a game-changing opportunity to reduce shipping costs, speed up trade, and access new markets. But it's not just about trade, it's also about power. Countries that control these routes have a significant advantage, not only in terms of trade, but also in terms of military and strategic positioning. Beneath the Arctic's icy waters and frozen soil lies a treasure chest of valuable resources. The region is believed to hold vast untapped reserves of oil, natural gas, and minerals, including rare earth elements used in the production of high-tech devices like smartphones, batteries, and renewable energy infrastructure. The US Geological Survey estimates that the Arctic could contain around 13% of the world's undiscovered oil and 30% of its undiscovered natural gas. As the world's energy demand continues to rise and countries look for new sources of fossil fuels, the Arctic's energy resources are becoming more appealing. In addition to oil and gas, the Arctic is rich in other valuable minerals like gold, diamonds, and lithium, which are essential for the growing global demand for electric vehicles and clean energy technologies. But as resource exploration increases, so do the risks. Environmental concerns over drilling in the region have sparked debates on whether such development is sustainable. While resource extraction promises economic benefits, it also poses significant environmental challenges and risks, including potential oil spills, habitat destruction, and the impact on indigenous communities. The Arctic's strategic military significance cannot be understated. The region serves as a gateway to critical global trade routes and is close to major military powers such as the US, Russia, Canada, and the European Union. As the ice melts and new trade routes open up, control of these waterways becomes crucial for both economic and military reasons. Russia has been particularly assertive in the Arctic, with a massive military buildup in the region over the past decade. Russia has invested heavily in expanding its military presence, constructing new bases, deploying advanced weapons systems, and even reopening Soviet-era airfields. Moscow views the Arctic as a key strategic asset, particularly as it looks to protect its northern borders and safeguard access to the vast natural resources it claims in the region. The United States and Canada have also taken steps to assert their presence in the Arctic, with the US conducting military exercises and increasing patrols in the region. NATO, has been wary of Russia's growing influence in the Arctic and has made moves to strengthen its presence in the area. This growing militarization of the region has raised concerns about the possibility of conflict, particularly as countries stake their claims over disputed territories and resources. While the Arctic's economic and strategic importance continues to grow, the region is also home to several indigenous communities who have lived there for thousands of years. These communities, including the Inuit and Sami people, have traditionally relied on hunting, fishing, and gathering for their livelihoods. However, their way of life is increasingly under threat due to climate change, resource extraction, and geopolitical competition. As Arctic nations scramble to claim their share of the region's resources, indigenous groups are often left on the sidelines. In some cases, they have fought to protect their land and sovereignty, asserting that their rights must be respected in any decision-making regarding the region. The question of how to balance the interests of indigenous populations with the geopolitical and economic ambitions of nations is one of the most pressing challenges in the Arctic today. Sovereignty disputes over territorial claims in the Arctic are also a key issue. Several nations, including Canada, Denmark, Norway, and Russia, have overlapping claims to parts of the Arctic. The United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, provides a framework for countries to claim extended continental shelves, but disagreements persist, and some nations are aggressively pushing for control over areas they believe are rightfully theirs. Despite the growing geopolitical tensions, the Arctic remains a region where international cooperation is vital. The Arctic Council, an intergovernmental forum comprising 8 member states – Canada, Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, Russia, Sweden, and the US, plays a central role in managing issues related to the region. The Arctic Council focuses on a range of issues, including environmental protection, sustainable development, and the welfare of indigenous populations. The Council has been successful in fostering collaboration among Arctic nations, particularly on issues like climate change and environmental protection. However, as the region becomes more economically and strategically important, the risk of conflict over resources, territorial claims, and military positioning grows. Whether it becomes a zone of cooperation or a flashpoint for conflict will depend on the ability of nations to navigate the complex and interconnected issues at play. One thing is certain: the Arctic is no longer just a remote wilderness, it's a critical player on the global stage.